Hey everybody, happy Thursday afternoon. Goodness gracious, that camera is very much up in my face today. Happy Thursday afternoon live tutorial stream. Hope everyone's doing well wherever you are out there in the wilds of the internet today. It is a gray and gloomy day here in Dallas, so I'm so happy to be with all of you here on the Beading Dreams stream, teaching you a fun project on this Thursday lunchtime tutorial. Today's project is, hi Barbara, hi Mandy. Yay, fun people on this stream today. All right, this is our Hinge top hammered, yay, all the way from Florida. That's awesome. Hinge top hammered bangle is what this class is called. I have so many classes out there that I had to look this up. I had to look it up on my website to see what I had called it because I could not remember. So, I'm so sorry. Apparently my camera is doing soft focus again today. So, you know, we're just going to call that the camera compensating for my crow's feet with an automatic filter or something like that. But this is a really fun wire class that is not complicated at all, but gives you a really cool look. And again, it's very simple to do, but it doesn't look necessarily like a simple project. So especially if you're trying to impress your friends and family with your jewelry making prowess, this is a really fun project to do. It is a bit of a Goldilocks project, however, as far as the bead goes. So it works best with a bead that is, excuse me, not too round, but not too flat. If your bead is too flat, if you use like a coin or a really flat oval, what tends to happen is it's hard to get these wires around the outside. They tend to want to kind of slip underneath your bead. If your bead is too round, then it has a tendency to invade this inside space of your bracelet, which is where your wrist is actually supposed to go, and it can be uncomfortable to wear. So something that's like moderately puffy, like this piece of quartz that I have on the sample, is going to work great. So I've got a couple of options for my project today. I'm going to try this green garnet because I love how just beautifully green and chunky it is. But the other limiting factor, of course, is the wire. So since you're going to use the same wire to go through your stone and attach actually to your bracelet, you need something sturdy or fairly sturdy in order to do this. You can't, you know, this attachment right here, because this is actually, you know, literally it's the clasp, it's the on and off of your bracelet. If you do this in a 22, 24, 26 gauge wire, it's not going to hold up. There's just really pretty much no way. So you've got to use at least a 20 gauge wire for this. So what you're looking for in the bead for this project is something that's not too flat but not too round, and something that has a hole that will accommodate 20 gauge wire. And at this point now I'm actually going to test my green garnet and see if its hole will accommodate 20 gauge wire, because okay, I knew this wire spool has an end somewhere, maybe. There we go. Yeah, because I just grabbed it before the stream and I didn't actually test it. So let's see if it'll work. Are you my Goldilocks bead? You are my Goldilocks bead. Okay, cool. So you need one bead that fits the specifications that I just went over. You're going to need some 20 gauge wire, and you're going to need some heavier wire, either 14 or 16. I'm using bronze wire today, but you can really use any kind of wire for this. You can use sterling silver, gold filled, brass, bronze, copper. My sample, I believe, is made in copper. 14 karat solid gold if you're feeling spendy. You know, this is one of those projects where there's no heat involved, so you can use any kind of wire that you really want. So let's talk about how much wire do you cut for each piece of this project. So this is not a true bangle bracelet. This is a faux bangle bracelet. A true bangle bracelet would have to go over your hand in order to get on your wrist, because a true bangle bracelet has no opening. Okay, this is a cheater. This one actually has a clasp, so it goes on like so and then lines up, and there you go. So you can make this a little bit smaller than you would make a typical bangle that would have to go over your hand. If you have hands that are significantly larger than your wrist, this can be a really helpful way to design a project, because you know, if you have larger hands, you've got to make your bangle so big to get over your hand to get on your wrist that once it's on your wrist, it's just kind of, you know, jangling back and forth. Sorry, that's my, Ziggy got a little angry with me yesterday, so I have a Ziggy scar. But so this can be a good way to circumvent that problem is what I'm trying to say in a very roundabout fashion. So you can make this bracelet approximately the same measurement that you would make any other bracelet that goes around your wrist, stretchy bracelet, bracelet with a clasp. You know, when you're talking about a true bangle bracelet, the measurement that you actually need to be concerned of is the measurement of your hand. But for all other bracelets, it's the measurement of your wrist. So your average bracelet measurement is going to be 7 inches. So that's what I'm going to go with today. So 7 inches, that's total circumference to go around the wrist. Now, you need to account for a couple of things when you're figuring out how much wire you need to cut for this part, for the actual, you know, main structural part of your bangle. You need to account for the length of this section here, which is going to be the length of your bead plus about a 1/2 inch. If you add that loop and that loop plus all your wire wrapping, that adds up to about 1/2 inch. So the length of your bead plus 1/2 inch is going to be part of your circumference, so you need to account for that when you're cutting your wire. But the other thing you need to account for when you're cutting your wire is you need to account for this and this. Okay, so this hook and this loop, these don't add length to your bracelet, so pretty much whatever this length is, you know, from here to here, we're going to go ahead and add about 3/4 of an inch onto it to account for this and this. So that was a lot of numbers and mathing thrown at you. So the way this is going to work is like so. Hi Sophia, we were missing you last night. We were talking about lumberjacks in northern Wisconsin and you were not on to provide us information about the lumberjack men in northern Wisconsin, and it was very sad. Corvus especially was devastated. So, oh wow, you're married to one. Okay, well don't let Corvus near him because apparently that's her new thing. Okay, so the way that this math works in practicality is like so. Okay, this is my bead. I'm making a 7-inch bracelet. I'm gonna measure my bead. My bead measures about 1 inch, and then I'm gonna add a 1/2 inch for, again, my wire wraps and my loops. So that means that I've got 1.5 inches for my center component. So from 7 inches, I'm going to subtract, oh my gosh, whimsical woodsman. Oh lordy. That just sounds, hold on, I have to write that down because there's no way I'm going to remember that, but I'm going to make Heather do it as soon as she comes in. But I have to write it down or I'll forget. Awesome. So anyway, okay, so 7 inches minus 1.5 inches is 5.5 inches. Then I need to add back to that 3/4 of an inch for, again, this part, the loop, this part, the hook. So that takes me from 5.5 to 6.25 inches. Now, just to make things even a little bit more difficult, when we hammer this, it's going to get a little bit longer. So I'm going to take that 1/4 inch back to account for the fact that the hammering is going to make this bigger. So I'm going to cut 6 inches of wire. So if anybody needs a review on that, please let me know. Otherwise, I'm just going to go ahead and cut 6 inches of my 14 gauge bronze wire. And then for my wire wrapped piece in the center, how much wire you cut really depends on how much wrapping you want to have around the outside here. I'm gonna bulk it up a little bit, but not too much. So I think I should be able to do this just fine with about 3 feet. So I'm gonna cut 3 feet of my 20 gauge wire. So for anybody who's looking for sort of the abbreviated version of this, for a 7-inch hinge top hammered bangle bracelet with a 1-inch bead, you're going to need approximately 6 inches of 14 or 16 gauge wire and 3 feet of 20 gauge wire. So if you just want the numbers, you're not so interested in the actual formulas, there they are. Now, of course, that's going to vary depending on how big your center bead actually is. So it really doesn't matter at this point what we do first, whether we do our center wire wrapped component first or whether we do our bracelet first. Since I'm holding my 20 gauge wire, I'm going to go ahead and do my center wire wrapped component first, because why not? So this is going to begin with one of my very, very favorite wire working techniques, the basic wire wrap loop. Yes, I was waxing rhapsodic about the basic wire wrap loop on last night's stream. It's one of the most useful things you can possibly teach yourself. Okay, it's one of the, if you're going to put a tool in your wire working toolbox, the basic wire wrap loop is one of the best things that you can put in there. And the basic wire wrap loop starts with your round nose pliers, and those are these pliers with the pointy cone shaped barrels. I want a fairly large loop, okay? I don't want a small loop here. I want a pretty big one. So I'm going to go ahead and go right close to the base of my pliers, and I want to have a solid probably 2 inches of wire above my pliers, because with a heavy gauge wire like this, I want to have plenty to hang on to. I'm going to push my wire away from me over my pliers to make a 90-degree angle. Then I'm going to loosen my pliers. I'm just going to rotate them up 1/8 of a turn, and I'm going to grab my wire again. So what I've done is I've grabbed right on that corner that I just made. Now I'm going to go ahead and pull my wire back up over the top of my pliers all the way down till it meets the wire in the front. And what I'm doing now, you can see is I'm starting to make a loop. I can't finish my loop, however, because this part of my pliers is in the way. So I'm going to loosen, rotate, grab again, and then finish that loop by crossing underneath my pliers so that I have a 90-degree angle between these 2 pieces of wire. And this is what we call the lady with a scarf. Now I'm going to take my chain nose pliers, I'm going to hold across my lady's head, and I'm just going to wrap this wire down. So I'm going to start at the base of that loop that I made, and I'm just going to tightly coil that wire around my core wire, which is this long one over here, and you're looking for about 2 or 3 coils. You want them to be nice and tight to your core wire, so not a ton of airspace showing in between. You want them to be stacked neatly on top of each other. Once you've accomplished that, you can go ahead and trim your wires off like so. Again, you're going to have a little pokey stabby bit there, so go ahead and just press that down, and there you are. Now I'm going to go ahead and put my bead on. So typically, if I were going to do the second half of a regular wire wrapped link, what I would do is I would put my pliers right up against that bead, and I think I can still do that because since I'm making a bigger loop, I'll have plenty of space here. But the point is, you need to have a little bit of space here and a little bit of space here to anchor all of your decorative wire wrapping. Okay, and we do want to make sure that these loops are in the same plane, so I want to make sure I'm looking at the side of the loop that I already made. And we're going to do the whole thing again. Away, rotate, back up over the top, rotate, underneath. Again, that's our lady with the scarf. Hold across your loop, wrap down until you reach your bead, and now don't cut your wire off, okay? Anyone whose hand was moving towards the wire cutters, just stop. Put them down.
Step away from the cutting.
Exactly. Step away from the cutting tools. We don't need them quite yet. Because now what we're going to do is we're going to start doing that decorative wire wrapping around the outside. So you're just going to take that end of wire and you're going to go around the outside of your bead and then around your wire wrap next to the loop, and then around the outside of your bead and around the wire wrap next to your loop. So you're creating this kind of organic wire wrapped frame for your bead. And you can make this frame as bulky or as non-bulky as you want. But what you want to make sure is you don't want to completely cover up that whole loop. So I think running out of space on this side, so I'm just going to do like 2 more and we're going to call it done. Okay, so once you've completed that wrapping, you're going to go ahead and just trim off whatever wire remains. So I did cut a little more than I needed. I've probably got about 18 inches left here that I can use on another project, so that means I could have gotten away with 18 inches instead of 3 feet. Live and learn. Press that end down so that it's not poking out or stabbing, and this is going to be the central component of your bracelet. Now, if you're not feeling like making a bracelet, either you never were feeling like making a bracelet or you've changed your mind during this tutorial, this could also be a really fun pendant. You could hang something from the bottom, or if you had 2 of these, that would be a really fun earring as well. Now we're going to go ahead and we're actually going to make our bracelet with our 14 gauge wire. You can use 14 or 16. I picked 14 because that was the spool that I grabbed first. Because sometimes that's how decisions are made on the Beading Dream stream, is what did I grab first? Okay, cool, this is what I'm going to use today. This tool is a really useful one to have, and unfortunately it's not an inexpensive tool. This is a stainless steel stepped bracelet mandrel in the oval shape. So you'll find basically 2 kinds of mandrels out there. You'll find stepped ones like this one, and then there are also tapered ones that are just a smooth progression from, you know, the end that's smaller to the bottom that's larger, and then you'll find oval ones and round ones, and each has a different application. For bracelets like this, I like the oval shape better. For regular traditional bangles, I like the round shape better. So of course I own one of each. Actually, I own more than one of each, but again, it's not an insignificant investment is the word I was looking for. So, you know, just think about, what are you more likely to use it for? Do you want to make circles? Do you want to make ovals? And then of course you can get mandrels that are plastic and that are wood. The problem with those is you can't pound on those with a hammer like you can on the steel mandrels. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take, speaking of hammer, I'm going to grab my hammer, and I'm going to take my wire, and I'm going to go to the smallest shape or smallest size of my mandrel, and I'm going to wrap that wire all the way around and overlap the ends of it. And what's going to happen when I let this go is it's going to spring up a little bit bigger than it was on the mandrel, but I'm going to have that basic oval shape. Now I'm going to go ahead and hammer it. Oh dear. Well, then my camera is going to fall off of the chair to which I have it anchored. And, okay, bear with me for a moment. No, it actually comes out of the holder, so I just need to actually put it down and do the thing. Thank you. Hi, Lori. It's okay, you haven't missed a ton. It's a fun project, but it's pretty simple. I bet you could figure it out just by looking at it. I know, Sophia, I really miss that about Wisconsin, about the fact that you can get liquor at the grocery store. It's so much more convenient than the way they do it other places like Texas. For anybody who's wondering what the heck I am doing, yeah, my camera just fell off of the stool to which I have it anchored, so I'm trying to put it back. Oof. Gotta love those technical difficulties happen on the fly. Okay, I think that's back. I don't quite know what that cord is. Oh, that's my mouse. Okay, I think that's back where I need it to be. We shall see. Ta-da! Well, kinda, sorta. Not really. Okay, we'll call that close enough. So, now I'm going to go ahead and do what I was going to do before I knocked my camera off, which is I'm going to hammer my bracelet. So I'm going to put it back on my steel mandrel, and here is, okay, here's the tricky thing. is do not hammer your fingers.
Don't do
It hurts. But you have to hold this tight against your mandrel while you're hammering. So that makes the whole do not hit your fingers thing a little bit harder, but I promise it's doable. I usually only hit my fingers about 1 time in every 10. So as far as, you know, statistics go, I'm going to say that's good. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my hammer, and this is a chasing hammer. Chasing hammer is a hammer that's got a convex head. There's this stupid like news bulletin in the corner of my screen that's covering half of my XSplit window. So chasing hammers are hammers that have convex heads so that you can hit your wire with the hammer, and you don't have to worry about, look, see, there's the side of the bead shop in the hammer. You don't have to worry about getting a tool mark from the edge of the hammer. So I'm going to hold this nice and tightly against my mandrel, and I'm going to hammer it flat with my hammer, and I'm going to put it down a little bit because otherwise I'm just going to bash my camera. Oh dear. So if you don't have an oval mandrel, instead of hammering it flat this way on a mandrel, you can actually use a bench block, and you can hammer it. My goodness gracious, why is that so bright? You can hammer it flat on a bench block as well. It's just different looks. Sometimes it's nice to have that texture around the outside of your bracelet. Again, it just kind of depends on A, what you like aesthetically, and B, what kind of equipment you have available to you. Okay. Okay, so now that I've got my bracelet hammered out, I need to flatten the end of it so that I can make my little hook here. And I can do that on my bracelet mandrel, or I can do it on a bench block. I'm just going to go ahead and do it on my mandrel since that's right here. That's going to require some really intense smashing. So if you're having a bad day, this is the time for you to get that out. Alright, so what I did is I just paddled out the end there like so, and then just because I'm a little bit anal retentive sometimes, I don't have a flat end there. I've got a pointed end from my cutters. So I'm just gonna grab a file and I'm gonna flatten that end out. This step, there's no reason to do this except for I don't like the aesthetics of the pointy ends. I feel like that could be a buttonless thing. There we go. So now I've flattened that out sufficiently that it's not going to make my eyelids twitch, and now it's time to put this whole thing together. So the flattened end is going to get flipped up to make our hook. Just going to do that with my chain nose. I'm going to go down a little bit from the end and just flip it up and back. This end is going to get rolled with my round nose pliers to make a loop. Like so. And so this is why I like to make sure that end is flat, is you get a much nicer, you know, join here if that end is flat rather than if it's pointy. And then I'm just going to take my chain nose pliers, open up that loop I just rolled, grab my center component that I've already made, pop that on there, close it up, and this is the mistake that I make very often, is I bent this too far. See how there's literally no way that that can possibly go on there, so don't bend it quite that far. Also, you can see that I've got a little bit of a sharp edge on there, so we're just going to go back to my file and blunt that out a little bit. And now hopefully it will actually work. Now the other thing, two other things that you need to think about with this bracelet. Okay, number one, three other things actually. Okay, number one, I put this component on upside down. Okay, this stone has a flat side and a bulbous side. I put the flat side up. That's not what I wanted to do. So step 1 is I'm going to take that off and I'm going to flip it around. Number 2, this is too long. It's going to catch on everything in the planet while wearing it. So I'm going to cut that off, and then I'm going to file that end so that it is round and blunt. So once again, we're not trying to murder anybody or ourselves with this bracelet. So files are your tool for shaping metal. Okay, so now I have a shorter, more blunted end, and that's more what I'm looking for. Number 3, I need there to be tension on this closure in order for everything to A, stay on my wrist, and B, look nice. And I don't really have that right now. Like, I just kind of, that just kind of flops on there, and it's not really very secure. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take my bracelet, I'm going to stretch it apart a little bit, so that when I close it, I have to put just a little bit of pressure on that to bring it in, and that's going to give me that little bit of tension that I need to A, make sure it doesn't fall off my wrist, and B, make sure that everything stays and looks nice. So that's it, people. That's our lunchtime project. Thank you so much for hanging out with us on the Beading Dreams stream this Thursday noon for our Hinge top hammered bangle bracelet class. Hi, Corvus. Yes, Thursdays at noon Central. So what is that, 10 a.m. your time? 10 or 9? Now, when I say noon Central, you know how I work, so you know I really mean like 20 minutes after noon Central time. Whimsical Woodsman. Yes, Sophia says, Corvus, go look up Whimsical Woodsman. She says that we will thank her later. So that's my gift to you on this noontime stream, and that's it for me at this noontime hour, because it's almost time to open the store. So hey, for anybody out there who doesn't know me, I'm Allison from Beading Dreams in Dallas, Texas. I'm pretty sure you all do know me, but in case you don't, we are an actual brick and mortar retail bead store. We're here on Lovers Lane in Dallas, open for business Monday through Saturday from 1 to 6. If you're not local in Dallas, you can find us, thanks Sophia, on this channel, twitch.tv/Beading Dream. 5 times a week with complimentary tutorials. We are here Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday at 6 p.m. Central Time, plus Thursdays at noon with live merchandise sales every Wednesday and every Saturday at 7:30-ish p.m. That means I'll be back tonight with our Torch Thursday project. This is our Cairn pendant, the one I was supposed to do last week. That got bumped for my super secret beading mission. And so we're going to do that one tonight. It's going to be a good time. There's going to be fire. Hopefully not like on me, but around me. And hopefully not on my camera, but you really, on the Beading Dream stream, you never know. So, everyone have a great Thursday, and we'll see y'all back on this channel, twitch.tv/Beading Dream, tonight at 6.